Okay, we're going to go Junban in order. So first, I'd like to welcome Winnie Leung. She's the founder of Transcend Capital Partners out of Hong Kong. Hi, Winnie. Right ahead. Next, we've got Elena Inake. She's marketing CTO for Segeka in Europe. Next, we have co-CEO of Rene Technologies and Consultancy. She's also one of the hardest working people I know for women in tech. APAC Director, Yuki Aizawa. And last but definitely not least, we're so excited to have Shibuya KK CEO, Shiho Watabe. Ladies, welcome to the stage. So just to set the scene really quickly, globally, persistently, only about 2% of venture funding is given to women-founded businesses. We're here today to figure out why that might be and to get the speakers' unique insights on the problem, the challenges, and wherever there are challenges, there are opportunities. So the first question I have is for all of our panelists. Just pick your mic up. And we'll start, Winnie, with you. If you could each go down and tell us what your business is, what does the gender gap look like in your world, and what are you doing to try and fix it? Winnie?
Oh, hi. Hi, I'm Winnie. Nice to meet you. I run a fund called Transcend Capital Partners. We started in late 2020. That's our fund one. And how we started is that myself and my partners came together and we went to all these tech conferences. And we realized that over 90% of the participants from the startups, from the GPs, they're all male. And in general, in this world, there are 50% male and 50% female. So there is a huge imbalance. And that's why we want to do something. So we started a fund, our Fund 1, Transcend Capital Partners Fund 1, where we invest in female-led startups. And there are female founders, co-founders, senior management. Now we're in our Fund 2, which is a ESG-conscious fund that invests in a diverse team in Asia. So that's how we started, and we want to make an impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. Hello, everyone. So I come from a technological background, used to be a developer. Now I work for a company in Europe that has around 10,000 people. But I'm part of Women in Tech Global. And a few years ago, I've done a few ventures of my own as a founder, and I figured out that there's not enough investment in women-owned companies. And my background, so I'm from Romania. I'm Romanian as a nationality, and in Romania there's a big IT hub. And what we've done, we've created, it's called Brava Angels. It's a group of angel investors, women and men, but we only invest in women-owned companies, at least 30%. So, of course, they can be, we are a big fund of diversity. So we do this. Currently, I have invested in women-owned companies, and we've seen that due to raising awareness around this and having more women pitching to VCs and to investors around Romania, but we also work with other countries as well. We've seen a raise, actually, especially in Romania, but especially in our, let's say, Eastern Europe, Central Eastern Europe group. But I think that having more networks and really connecting with people and really connecting on a real level with people and understanding what they do and the value that each of us bring, it's incredible. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Yuki. I'm Japanese, but I live in Malaysia. So I'm here because I'm responsible, I would say, as two functions. I have my own blockchain startup company as a founder, co-founder, and also what my co-panelists are saying, too much disparity, especially tech startup scene. I'm also, before the startup, I used to be in financial IT sector. There was not a word like fintech now. So anyway, it's been long history. It has been a very dominated, male-dominated industry, and I thought, what can I do? And so I found Women in Tech, and now on this side to enable, we are, I would say, stakeholder enablers. So we bring community, we bring VCs, we empower founders, We connect with academia, educator. We advocate. We want to change. We want to see change in policies. And we do social and digital projects. So I am exploring this conversation today from all angles. Thank you.
Hi, nice meeting you. I'm Shiho, and this is a great stage for me to be on today. I'm really honored. Like Yuki, I'm Japanese as well. I grew up here, and I started my career back in 2004, and I was almost getting used to the fact that I'm the quota everywhere. So having these women on the stage with me is really such an honor. Having said that introduction, so I run a startup acceleration program backed by Shibuya City government. And if you are new to Japan, Shibuya is the most iconic city in Japan. And the mayor and 3 conglomerates, my shareholders, they decided to make startup community in Shibuya. So founders from all over the world come to Japan and innovate in the areas that Japan is particularly good at, such as aging of the society or IPs, anime, VTubers. So that's me, and I'm the CEO. I just came back from the US last year with the family, and I took this job. What else? How does the gender inequality look like in my industry? Just to talk about my program, we have 50% female co-founder rate. We have 23 companies in our program, and 50% of, a little bit more than 50% actually, 12 company out of 23, small sample size yet, more than 50% female founder companies. And I was thinking why that is the case. And I think it's because we focus on the age tech, caretaker, we call it care economy, because it's everything around aging of the society, caretaking of kids and seniors. And that is dominated, that experience is really female-driven. 75% of entire care economy is consumed by female. So we have a lot of female founders who are doing some important work in that area. And another focus that we have is anime and oshikatsu, which means fandom economy. We're crazy about K-pop idols, we're crazy about anime, and a lot of female fans. Female fans spend more money than male fans. So I think a lot of consumption is done heavily by female. So that insights-driven business translated into, I think, high ratio of female founders in our community. And also, I'm a female. Maybe that has something to do with it. More women in the position of decision making, that helps. And Shibuya's mayor, he cares deeply about empowering women. So when your shareholder cares so much about empowering women, that kind of gets translated into like all the decisions that we make. And we have one board member in my company is female, and we need to work on that. But then again, so I think that's the world that I live in, the view that I see. Having said that, this gender inequality in startup industry from OP, GP startups, it's a real thing. So I'm here to learn from all of you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Shiho-san, everyone. Shiho-san, I'd like to stay on you for a moment. And then Winnie, I'm going to ask you the same question. You know, a lot of times in the startup world, it's fun, it's exciting to work at startups because you're building the car while you're driving it, right? Whereas if you work at like older or more traditional companies, to get one thing done, we say it's like moving an aircraft carrier. It takes like way too long to like make a decision and move things around. In a similar way, do you think that by building something new, which what Shibuya is doing is quite new, like venture world in Japan is still quite new, do you think there's an opportunity to start from the beginning with better gender parity than maybe in Silicon Valley where it's more institutionalized in an older situation?
That's an interesting question. being new, would it help to offset the bad negative trends? I think Japan is already doing pretty badly when it comes to gender inequality. I think one city can change anything about it. Having said that, what's more powerful could be Shibuya has always been about diversity and differences. And there's a tagline for the city that mayors created close to 10 years ago. 違いを力に変える街, which means turning differences into strength. And that has been the strategy for the city for the past decade. And everything that we do carries that sort of DNA of differences. And Shibuya became the first local government that made same-sex couples official in terms of they get the same rights as heterosexual couples, married couples. So that was first in Japan, and that was not so long ago. So having lived in, I grew up in Shibuya City actually, I'm a local. I feel that everywhere being different is actually good, and we have to take everyone with us. So that spirit is really special in Shibuya. So everything we do, everything we will build will show that spirit. So in that sense, I believe that we should be different, but that has to be a conscious, continuous decision. So yes.
Thank you so much. And Winnie, I'd like to hear you too, because the Hong Kong venture scene is also relatively new, and I say that with regard to Silicon Valley. So I mean, that's a big comparison, right? But I know in Hong Kong too, there's a lot of financial services, fintech, financial technology, which comes from the financial services world, which has also been traditionally a very male-dominated industry. So if they're coming from over here and they're building fintech, there could be some cross-pollination, but what do you see in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I think every place has their own culture and habits. I think Hong Kong is doing very well in the sense that we have been very cautious about this, and we are very aware about this, and we are actually the first one that set up a fund that invests in female-led startups. That's number one. And number two, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange has a new policy where there needs to be one female board member on every board at least. So I think that is a very good step for any Asian society, because when we are talking about, when we are doing comparison, there's got to be some cultural background, and that's where we come from, and I think every little step would help, and I think that's very important.
Thank you so much. Elena, this topic is not necessarily new. Like we've seen this panel topic before at other events. I guess I wonder, from having done this quite a bit, is there something you feel like we haven't addressed yet, or you would like to see addressed more on this topic?
I'll answer in a very controversial way, which is a bit my style. So while I think that a lot of things have been done and awareness has been raised, I still think that at some point it's just a fluffy thing. So we talk about it, but what do we do, right? Because we can have a lot of conversations, but then what happens next? And of course, there are people who support diversity, but we have to understand that change is hard for everyone. So we need to change first mindsets, and it's not that it's not well intended, but it's very hard to get people to change everyone. And I think that, for example, what we do and what I'm doing in my company, because I lead as well diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I try to raise awareness on these things. And I see this working in the venture capital is really showing data and results around it. And data shows that women-owned companies, of course, more than 30%, let's be, have a better revenue growth throughout the years, which is, let's say at the beginning when VCs hear about this, they say, oh, okay, but let's see more in depth. But what happened in the venture that I'm part of, We've invested together in a few companies, and what we've seen is that women-owned companies are doing very well and much better than the others. So when you have data, of course, you cannot only talk about things, but you need to be a bit backed up by data, because otherwise it's just a fluffy conversation. But I think that the awareness that we are doing is good, but we really need to do more. So I've heard conversations where they say, oh, okay, maybe you should stop at this because it's positively discriminating, but it's not positively discriminating because it's a history of women not being allowed to do a lot of stuff. So then we have to break the cycles and then the history. But I think we're going on the right track, and I'm very honored to see that. Very interesting. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Elena. Yuki-san, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this too, and also an ecosystem, like a tech ecosystem, a pipeline. Can you tell us a little bit about, like, what's a pipeline? Where are the leaks? Like, where does it start? Where does it finish? And where are the leaks?
Well, okay, so before I start that, I think I want to also just jump into the topic of, forever talking about gender parity and what we are doing. 100% what gets measured gets done, right? So I'm a firm believer of that. And more within us at Women in Tech, we are driving data as well. We have our own hub, and rightfully so. Right now, we are having our own platform whereby we are having this crowdfunding, because we're talking about funding gap, which is today's topic. Not every businesses are VC funded possible, right? Probably all of you will agree. So we are looking at any alternatives and all of that, and maybe the starting point is crowdfunding, angel, and so on and so forth before you're ready for anything else. So with Women in Tech platform, we started this project, crowdfunding, and that's what we are doing in the pillar of startup business scene, among other things, academia, education. Our manifesto is classroom to boardroom. So we know the mindset, as we always talk about, starting from very young, all the way to, we talked about board as well, placing one board. It looks very different. Like France, it's mandatory. I hear from Ayumi that it's been 40%. Here in Japan, we are really, really far off. It's barely 10% board level. So we are working on that as well, and it's really top down, right? We need the leadership level of ladies to do promotion, to the hiring, changing of policy and all of that. But now, coming back to the female businesses, female-owned businesses, we are at the right point where if you're a founder, if you're a female, we are talking about we are addressing as a foundation naturally about all of these. We're not just talking about diversity in terms of gender. We're talking about age. We are talking about disability and all of that. But I think we as a woman, I'm sorry, male participants here, no offense, but these are also backed by data, right? That we are quite nurturing in terms of thinking, in terms of strategies too, right? That's where I think we are most sensible about when we are rolling out, creating team, creating policies, and that's something I would always address intentionally with business owners. And back to your question, what did you want to hear? The deal, the pipeline, how does it start? And
where do the leaks in the pipeline start? Because some people might say, like, well, why don't women just, like, where are you? Where are you pitching for businesses right now? Shouldn't women just step up more and start more businesses? Like, is there a pipeline issue?
Yeah, I think I always hear from the VCs that our language, for example, is very different, and especially I think in ASEAN, where culture, for being submissive is a virtue. Like, it is taught to be, as a woman, we have to be a little bit more not taking the spotlight, for example. So I think these are the issue of when we are presenting to VC, for example, our languages, choice of languages are very promotional, as versus to male, when they're presenting, they are using a disruptive languages where the VCs would like to hear. But again, going back, this is also the part where we want to, at Women in Tech, we are addressing this together with Headline actually, creating a VC academy. So we want to create more female VCs, general partners, because that's also the addressable part, that we don't have enough female investors who understands and resonate with what we are doing, right? So I think this is a bit of that leaky point, promotional. So we are doing both sides, supply and demand. So we are nurturing. How we are doing in Women in Tech is to give all the support and help in terms of how you can pitch better, what's the leaky pipeline in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you. Ladies, I'd like to, let's go back for a moment and talk about success and how to measure it. And this is one for everyone. Like, what metrics should we be using? And what metrics might be surprising for people to think that we should be using to mark growth? Winnie, let's start with you. Growth.
On growth. Yeah, so we are a VC fund and we are profit driven. So we look at ROI and your revenue growth. I think that's the most important. But earlier on, I heard we are quoting the statistics where 98% of the funding are actually going to male founding team, and that is across that's a result of multiple research, and that was actually something that also drove us into this industry. Because 98% to me is like 100%. So we invest in female-led startups and diverse teams. But diverse teams, the reason is that we want to invest in companies that has a diversity of ideas. We are not like female only. I only invest in female-led startups. We're not that, but we invest in all talents. And we believe that if you're in your pre-A to B stage as a startup, and you do not have a female in your senior management team, there is very likely that there will be groupthink, and everyone will be thinking like the same, and you want to do this, everyone agrees, and we do not want that. We want diversity of ideas, and that's why we believe that a diverse team would give you better results. That is also a result from a number of research, so that is something that we will look at.
I will answer this question in a bit of a different way, because I think my fellow colleagues, panelists, will answer from a VC point of view. For example, from a group of angel investors, we look a lot at the diversity of the board, but not in only the gender. So we need to know that if you have an idea, you have all the legal things backed up, you have the marketing, you cannot know everything. You have someone who handles sales. So we're not looking only at the board of advisors, but also in the management. So we want to see diversity in all scales. And whenever we ask someone, no matter, so there's a thing that the idea is not that important, and it's actually not that important. It's important, the execution is important, but also with whom you execute that idea. So we really need to, so if you ask me about the success, I would measure the success also through the diversity that you have in terms of background, age, cultural background. I think when you open a startup and you want it to, of course, to succeed, I think you think about it internationally. So having people from diverse cultures into your board or into your management, it's something that's going to be extremely successful. Thank you.
I think I will speak a little bit about the advocacy in terms of like government has to kind of step in as well in terms of measuring. So we as Women in Tech as well, we are starting as we have a huge community within Women in Tech, and most of them the founders angle, tech startup founders. So we are collecting, again, data, right? Data speaks for itself. So we're collectively collecting. So how did you raise? Where are you at? And all of these data. Are you at seed? Are you at A, B, C? So on and so forth. And we can do this because we are a community. People are willing to participate. And people are, because we know what we're doing, right? We're talking about this, as you said, Rebecca, we're talking about this forever. And again, it's data that speaks. So intentionally now, I think we have to do as the whole global chapters that we need to collect and show this is what we're doing. And I think that's where it needs to start, as you said as well. How do we do it? How do we have the outcome? I think it's data, really. So.
How do we measure the success, right? I think I don't pretend like there is no pipeline issue. I think around 30% of startups are founded by women in Japan, and the stat goes up to 40 when you look at the global market. But then again, even like lower rate for getting funded. And I think that's where I think that rate, like, are you funded or not? Given everything else is the same, do you have the same shot at getting funded or not? I think that's really important. Being funded means you're supported by the community and you have the ability to hire people. You have all the advantage, support from VCs and advisors. So it is really important to raise. So I think that's the most important thing. Before you get to the start line, are you getting funded? Given everything, your idea is good. I feel like if you know any female founders who have good ideas, please send it to us, and they should be funded, just like men.
Thank you. It's actually a good point, Shiho-san. I wonder if someone in the audience right now wants to go back to the office on Monday and think, I want to be an investor. Maybe not like I don't have 100 million or, whatever, but I've got $10,000 perhaps. And this is for everyone. What is one tactical, actionable step that everyone here can do tomorrow to become their own, to become an investor or a startup founder, whichever is easiest? Shiho-san, do you want to?
So the question is, what's the actionable things that
first step, like what's the first thing they should do
to get to closing gap and funding?
Yeah,
whatever
even just
the
to
roles
become
of
an
their
investor. Like, I want to become an investor tomorrow. What should I do? I don't know anything about it. I do.
Yeah, I don't know who every single person in the audience. It's kind of hard to say. But super general thing that I can say is make sure to, this is such a fundamental thing, but Yuki mentioned intersectionality of this issue as well, right? Try to be an ally for some other minority group. If you're a man, then you can be supporting women. If you're a woman, then you could be supporting LGBTQ community, founders in those community. I think by sticking together, we'll have like a bigger community and resources to leverage rather than just like a women and founder, maybe extend it to other verticals of inequality. And after all, when I think about this issue, I think it's all of us against inequality. It doesn't matter which side you're on in this lifetime, right? So I think everyone is on the same side, and it's good to have that awareness that, we're in it together. So not really tactical, not at all tactical. Yeah.
Okay, so first action, you can sign up to be a member for Women in Tech because, our Japan team is here as well. And QR code, because we do a lot of community events. We partner, of course, with Headline, IVS, and around the globe as well. We have our mobile app as well. You can communicate with one another. If you are in Paris, you can meet Ayumi maybe to have a coffee. That's what we do, right? I think it's very important that you have a community that's with the aligned cause. One, you can talk to people with your problems. What can I do? There's always somebody. We have all the ecosystem enablers in place. We are creating everyday champion, role models, right? Those are the ones that success stories, how to successfully get funding and all of that. We do that in Women in Tech, basically. So first step, join us. Take action. Thank you.
So what I would say that the first step is to identify, I mean, to be different from my colleagues, to identify the industry or the area that you're best at and invest in a startup that is doing that. For example, if you're into education, invest in an edtech startup, because in this way you're not only an investor, but you can help through your network and through your experiences the startup grow, so you can grow together with the startup. So that would be my advice. Thank you.
Yeah, can we have a show of hands? Are there any founders here, startup founders? And investors? Cool. Yeah, so come talk to us.
I saw someone also said that if you don't have capital, if you don't have your own money, to be an equity investor. So if you hear a pitch or you see a founder who's got something really compelling, if you can maybe barter your expertise in your field and help advise them, then they can kind of give you like equity as a way of investing until you get more money. Slight tweak here. I want to talk about governments because this was brought up earlier. What government or institutional policies in your regions do you think are the most effective in closing the gap in gender inequities? And let me start with you, Elena. Yeah, sorry.
With me? No?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. So it depends from the region you're in. It depends from So I think it depends a lot. But I would say that first, maybe more. Let's start with not go towards the moon. I'm not a mother yet, but maybe some policies around maternity and child care, because I'm actually a lot into this topic, and what can I say is that usually we don't see this disparity, but women, when they have kids, they can work basically less than men do. So then something around this, childcare, and then a bit more work-life balance. So work with these two for the beginning, and then we can go to other things. But for example, in Romania, you don't have that around, so we would use that very much. Thank you.
Shiho-san, what about you?
I am actually not a policy expert, and I think Japan is doing particularly well in this area. So it's kind of hard to say what's working, but then it's about continuously voicing this issue, right? And the governments, especially on Tokyo governor is female, she doesn't stop talking about this. She talks about startups, diversity. It's one of her 3 pillars of her policy and strategy. And Shibuya city government does a lot of chanting, like we don't stop talking about this. So that's important. And I think all the basic stuff like mandating, collecting data on diversity, publishing them, that's effective. All these practices must be sustainable, and it should be done, it should be published and broadcasted. And for long-term stuff, like education, what we teach and how we teach our kids, so that there will be future entrepreneurs and free thinkers, or there will be themselves, they can succeed, build a world where they can succeed as themselves, so that who knows, not every little girl needs to be an entrepreneur. Maybe she can be a small business owner and succeed, have money to invest in startups. So success look in many different ways. And also maternity leave policy, egg freezing, all these things need to be reviewed and really strategically designed by the government, so that it's building towards the goal that we want, not just one-off thing or political campaign, but it's just a sustainable thing that we do for the next decades to make sure that there is a better future.
I think the Hong Kong government is doing a lot of things on this, and we are actually the very first one that implemented the stock exchange policy. And we also have, when we have one of the largest startup festivals in Hong Kong, the conference called Start Me Up, there's always a female track. And childcare, what Elena said, is extremely important, because that is how we have, they free up time and focus on ventures. So there are a lot of stakeholders within the ecosystem. So there are funds, there is a government, there are startups, and there are users. And all these participants and all these stakeholders will need to work together, and first of all have their awareness. And number two, it's important that they help together to help female to get into the scene.
So time and again, we are talking about ecosystem players. That's important in every way, like 30% club, for example. I mean, quota and non-quota, when you don't have it, it's always a debate whether to have it, not to have it. But if you don't have a fundamental anything, then where do you start, right? So you have to place it, and now that Malaysia is the first country in ASEAN to reach the 30.6. We are a little bit behind altogether in Asia, I would say, as compared to like France, is 40% is mandatory. So, but when you place something like that, intentionality, and government can support, of course, from this as well. So these are the campaigns from 30% Club. One example that we work with as Women in Tech, and governments pushing very, very hard. And of course, it's from the shareholders and investors' point of view. If you don't intentionally showcase or publish, you have all the reportings and whatnot. It's really a pressure, right? You are not investable anymore to that point. So I think these are really coming into places. That is a progress I see. Publishing, a lot of companies in Japan, I hear as well, didn't want to even publish, for example, this like gender pay gap. So when you make it mandatory, then you have no choice. Big companies, public listed companies are doing it. So these helps again. I think it's all in all, it's intentionality. What the government is doing, it's pressure, always pressure. Yeah, unfortunately, it has to be so.
Thank you so much. I think like bringing it home with one last question for each one of you, and that is, we've discussed the challenges, we've seen the data, done this before. From what you've seen over the past few years and kind of looking out in the next few years, what is the biggest opportunity in this space that you're excited about? Let's start with you, Winnie.
Yeah, I think recently our fund too, we have a focus in ESG and AI. I think both of these are going to, greatly improve the funding gaps in female-founded startups. We started in late 2020, and then we started in Fund 1 as we focus on female-led startups, and there are companies, coming to meet us, and they're asking for funding. And the first thing that they said is that, I look at your website. I understand that you invest in female-led startups, including, female senior management. We have one female in our team. So I think number one most important thing is we brought out the awareness, and number two is that they feel that actually I understand why they're doing it. They want diversity in ideas. So we hope that this is going to work together, and not just ourselves and also other funds. We hope that they can apply this and make sure that there are diverse team in the companies that they invest in.
The same for me. So can you repeat the question a bit so I can?
What's the biggest opportunity you see over the next
So
few
I can answer from a different angle. I think the biggest opportunity that I see is investing in is starting something new, and I always love to go to places where I'm at the beginning, So I'm not necessarily a follower, but I'm kind of in the beginning, because then you have a lot of opportunities to grow together, to grow together with that business. And I think that when it comes to investing and female-owned companies and everything that's related to this, and when you go even deeper into DUI and strategies, and how AI affects DUI and so on and so forth. So I think it's just a very new area that has so many opportunities, and in every corner or in every niche of it that you would go and work into or dig deeper into, you can get a lot of very good results. So yeah, thank you.
I think really this AI thing is a very inclusive thing, really, because it's such an domain that everybody can build upon. When you have something, it's really a level playing field, right? It's such a new thing, as well as, blockchain, Web3 in general, but AI. If you have something, if you have ideas, creativity can get you so much. And this is level playing field. You heard from Winnie, the VCs are waiting for you to come up with ideas. So this is what I'm really excited about. It has no boundary. So all the ladies out there, come up with your ideas, get something within an AI, go to Winnie, get funded. That's it, yeah.
Yeah, so for me, two things. Care economy is really interesting to me because it is such a moonshot, blue ocean area, aging of the society, who are going to take care of our senior citizens as well as kids, shrinking population. These things are truly global, like borderless issues that it's almost like a hair on fire situation. 1 in 3 of us in Japan are over 65, and it's really, truly hair on fire situation. And there is a lot of money flowing into this area, and women, female founders are very close to this issue, so they truly have advantage in tackling this problem. Why not? And if there are allies who will empower female founders working in this area, if she's not technical, that's fine as well. So I feel like this is such a moonshot care economy. And the second thing is creator economy. It's always been strongest, like women are creative just as much as men, I think. But the consumption of creativity, I think women are really good at it. And they spend money, like a K-pop in Japan. I was talking to a female founder who runs K-pop fan platform, and guess what? 90% of the revenue comes from women. And there are girl bands as well, but somehow male fans don't spend money on anything. So I think creator economy and care economy, these are two verticals that I'm really excited about. And it's so, it makes sense that generative AI and blockchain and all these things are coming together and supporting those two verticals. And we're seeing inflow of founders from all over the world coming to Japan, and we're ready to, and that's why we have such huge 50% plus female founder ratio in our program, right? Because it's global. But I would like to see the same number everywhere in the world. In Japan, I don't think it'll be 50%. I have unfair advantage as an acceleration program that can give out visas to foreign founders. That's why I get to tap into the global founder base. But in Japan, the number is extremely low. So someone should do this, and why not female entrepreneur?
Fabulous. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. I want a quick last little note from me that the most powerful thing that you can have is a network, the community. So please network. LinkedIn. Everyone's on LinkedIn here. Like, build your network and come say hi. But please give a round of applause to our fantastic panelists. We appreciate you ladies coming in today and speaking with us. We're going to head out now, but if you have any questions or you want to chat with anyone, we're going to be walking off the stage in this direction. So, thanks, everyone.